Okay, so today's Zoom is going to be something I'm really excited to talk about. It feels like, and I say this all the time, I notice the same common theme almost from my calls with people, from my conversations, my texts with you guys. It's like each week there's always this one standout topic that I'm like, that's what I got to focus on. And this week was boundaries and people who push those boundaries, people who feel guilty because of history or because they feel like they'll be the jerk for being selective or speaking up for themselves. And some of you guys, we've been working on this together for a really long time, and it's something that I feel every female that I come across with some kind of chronic illness battles at some point. And it's not even the ones that are very timid or non-confrontational. A lot of times it's just people feel like having an illness or not having a body you feel proud of makes you need to say yes to people more or tolerate people more. And God, the best thing I ever did was get selective about my circle. So if we have not had this conversation before, you guys are going to love this. So, hang on. I think I'm going to move to better lighting and a more comfy chair. My back is killing me today. Hello. It's a very professional presentation today, guys. I still have my Christmas tree up. Cheyenne's new. You haven't seen my Christmas tree in the background of a Zoom yet. Just so you know, that is in fact my Christmas tree. Just never took it down. So my first thing to start today with is wait for it. You are the average of the 5 people you're around the most. Absolutely no grammar. The moist. The moist. No, the most. So you are the average of the 5 people you are around the most. So choose friggin' wisely, and don't let things like you're the only one in the group that has a problem with this person, or, you've known each other for so long, how could you ever not be friends with them? Or I had probably 3 different people bring up history as a reason to keep on having someone toxic in their lives this week. And I get it. Another thing I want to bring up is narcissists can pick up on somebody who is lacking in themselves, meaning somebody who doesn't feel good about themselves, someone who is a people pleaser or can be controlled, can be molded, so to speak. So if you're the average of the 5 people you're around the most, don't let one of those people in your inner circle be somebody who takes advantage of you. It may not even be a narcissist, but somebody who doesn't respect your boundaries or always comes to you for things when they're never available to be there when it matters. Stop giving chance after chance to somebody who proves to you time and time again it's a one-way street. And if you feel guilt about that, saying no is self-care, honestly. We talk about we work on our health so much. We try so many different things. We alter the way we eat. We create new patterns in our everyday life. We work through things when we're exhausted or we're depressed or we're anxious. And then we allow people, because it's almost harder to initiate standing up for yourself or setting a boundary, we allow people to tell us what we have a right to expect. And I think everybody, no matter who you are, what size you are, what your health is like, I think everybody has the right of reciprocation. So if you have people in your life that don't match that, that's the first thing on how to be selective with your circle. If it's not a reciprocal relationship, what are you, the UNICEF of friendship? Do away with it. It sucks. I'm saying easier said than done. There's personal ties you have to some of these people. But at the end of the day, if someone deserves to be in your life, you won't question it more than once or twice. So that's a good way to tell if you need to make sure your 5 are nice and right and tight. Is if you have to question more than once if they have your interest in mind, that's somebody who does not have your interest in mind. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with choosing you. Family can suck too. That's the other thing here we're going to talk about. Family doesn't mean obligation all the time. Now, do I mean like, if you have to go to a family party, you get invited to something? I know it's like, I really don't want to go, but you go because they're your family, whatever. That's entirely different. What I mean is, if you have family that makes you feel like crap about yourself consistently, or you have family that only knows you exist when they need something from you, or simply hell-bent on not understanding who you are. If any of those things cross your mind, family or not, they're not as concerned with treating their family right as you are. And reciprocation is a right. It doesn't matter if it's blood or not. There is no pecking order to who gets respect, because people who love each other respect each other. And that might be, like, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't have, the greatest family life. Now we're on the men's after a lot of therapy, and on my part, not on theirs, where I'm able to tolerate being around them and still setting my boundaries, which I'll explain how to do in a second. But it's really hard to think of your family in a bad light a lot of times. And a lot of that is because they did keep us from harm in some way. Like, no matter how good or bad of a parent they were, there is a loyalty there. They raised you. They kept you safe. Sometimes maybe it's easy to write them off and be like, no, they suck. And that's its own path of healing. But if you're the type of person that continues to take abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, comments that are made that make you feel disrespected or unappreciated, you have just as much a right to demand reciprocation from your family as you do friends. Even more so, because again, that loyalty should be both ways. That sensitivity of feelings should be going both ways. The disappointment and showing up there for someone or not should go both ways. So that's the first thing if you're riddled with guilt at the thought that you could be selective. Second of all, third of all, everybody's so worried about being a great friend to anybody that they consider a friend. I want you to remind yourself and evaluate for yourself. I know what makes me a good friend. Are they demonstrating that same behavior? Again, reciprocation. And if at any point they're not, you can choose one of two things, okay? So this goes for all of the above. Setting boundaries is such a scary thing for a lot of people. It was for me too. I had to learn how to do it. And here's the thing. If you're somebody that's like, I got no problem setting boundaries, I will tell someone to go to hell in a handbasket if I have to. Okay, that's fine. But that's not effective communicating. That's confronting. Setting boundaries are only effective if you do them, if you set them at all, and if you're not confrontational about it, which is super difficult. One or the other is super difficult for some people. So if your fear is not even bringing up that you have a problem, you've probably said one of two things. If you're afraid of bringing up a problem, one, I don't feel like dealing with it. Or two, I'm afraid to make it worse. How the hell do I do a line? Okay. So who here has, tell me in the chat or raise your hand if you have your camera on, who here has said one of those two things when it came down to setting a boundary with someone and it made you feel uncomfortable and scared to do it? I see Tabby there. She's the only one with the video I see. Definitely tell me in the chat. But yeah, and it's because, and usually it's not ever up to me to push and say to somebody, no, you have to confront the situation. Usually, you guys know me, I have my gentle nudges of why it would be beneficial to do that. But if you go with number one, I don't feel like dealing with it. All you are doing is prolonging the inevitable. And the inevitable is that you'll feel hurt. You'll either feel hurt because they'll continue to disrespect your boundaries and you will have to deal with it again and again. And on top of feeling disrespected, you'll be upset that you allowed it to continue happening. Or they'll get worse because you've never set the bar at respect. You've never set the bar that they have to adhere to your boundaries to have you in their life. And either one of them, I guess this applies for both. If you're afraid of making it worse, or you're not dealing with it because you are afraid of making it worse, understand that that comes from a place of not valuing yourself, because it comes from a place of fear that if I do this, if I stand up for myself, if I make a stand, if I have a boundary, they will leave, or they won't like me as much. They'll stop inviting me out places. They'll stop caring or trying. And I think that that could be the most telling thing of all, is if you have someone in your life who would leave you because you set a boundary. And again, we'll go over what a boundary is. I'm not saying to go, light up your torches and get your pitchforks. I'm saying simply saying something like, no, I'm not okay with that. If they ask you if you're okay with something, again, we'll get into it in detail. But if you're so afraid that they're not going to, that they're going to leave you finally because you finally decided to stand up for yourself, that is absolutely somebody that should leave you then for your own good. They'll do you a favor if they do. So if ever you're afraid of being selective, understand that you can't have a fear that you'll be alone. You just have to know that the right people who care about you, who fit, who are there, who understand you, who respect you, will adhere to those boundaries to keep you in their lives, because they wouldn't want to lose you. Don't focus only on keeping the people in your life. Focus on having people in your life who would do anything like you would to have you be in their life. And I'm afraid to make it worse kind of states the problem. If you can't even talk to that person, there's not much room to work with, So confrontation versus communication. Now, what the hell is a boundary? Boundaries are not jerk things to have, okay? Successful, happy, fulfilled people have clear boundaries. Now, am I saying to nitpick everything? Absolutely not. That's miserable to be around too. There will be stuff that you will have to let go. However, I'll give you this example, right? When we first got our house and we were renovating, Nick's parents, with every good intention in their hearts, because by the way, most people are not just flagrant narcissists who abuse you. A lot of times it's just a super overbearing person who just you feel disrespected by. Okay. So his parents they didn't really like me, so they weren't very nice. But anyway, they do now, thank God. I think at least tolerate me. But when we were renovating, they just wanted to come here every day. Every day. I'm not exaggerating. His parents are retired. So they were like, woohoo, new project to stick ourselves in. And I was not having it because I'm not used to that. I've always been kind of fending for myself. So having, Nick in my life when he has parents that have great intentions, hence the guilt, but are super overbearing and not respecting of our boundaries, i.e. we had just gotten married and we wanted maybe one day alone in our house to work on the house or do whatever it is that newlyweds do in their house alone. No matter how many times we softened it up to try and be like, maybe give us a day, we just want to have a day to come and go. Oh, no problem. Just leave a key. We're really going to be working on the house together. We kind of want some time just us. Oh, I'll be upstairs. You won't even notice me. It's not always the boundaries that are big, nasty, negative things. A lot of times it's just standing up for what you want with someone who has good intentions, but is not taking the hint and not taking no for an answer, which still makes you feel frustrated. If you got them PCOS mood swings, you're ready to blow when someone's not respecting your boundaries at all. And then that makes you feel crazy and irrational. When finally what worked was, tomorrow, do not come over. You've come over every day. I appreciate it wholeheartedly. We are going to be here alone tomorrow. So do not come by. I will see you on Thursday. Did they listen? Hell no. They showed up here at 4 p.m. the next day. But when they did, what I did again was repeat it, okay? People who don't respect boundaries by nature, again, might not necessarily mean bad. They may think that you think you're bothering them or something like that. They're just not getting it. You just have to repeat it again. When they came the next day, it was, I had asked yesterday that we have this time alone. So tomorrow, at no point, come over. Don't come over at any point. Do not come here tomorrow. Like, I love you guys. Put a hand on the shoulders. You guys are the greatest, but we really are asking for alone time. So I need you to just not come by. Okay. Now, it felt super uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, because I was terrified. I don't feel like dealing with it was at the beginning, and I'll just tolerate them being here until I started getting up here and I was about to blow. And then I'm afraid to make it worse was, will they judge me? I'll be the wife. I'll be the woman that stole their son away and is now controlling him and blah, 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 which I probably assumed the role anyway. I'm just married into an Italian family and I'm a woman, so that pretty much settles that. But at the end of the day, I realized something is if I'm not disrespectful, if I am blunt in asking for something simple, and I'm not asking for anything outlandish, it's really not my problem how they feel about it. It's really their problem how they feel about it, because I'm not being mean. I'm not being angry. I'm not being confrontational. I am communicating what I need and want as a boundary. If they choose to disrespect that boundary, I'm not the bad one for saying it. They're the bad ones for not listening to it. And again, repeating it, I didn't get mean. If anything, I was nicer the second time on purpose, because if people know that you're not mad at them, but you're asking them for something, if their intentions are good, they don't want to piss you off. You know, they don't want to make it worse. So they'll just be like, okay. So that's how we finally got a day alone. You know, the whole, oh my God, it was crazy. It was months, but it was necessary, you know, or I deal with it in what I do a lot. You know, sometimes people will, none of you guys, but in the past, especially when I first started and I was really nervous about anything that I was doing, I was a pushover, essentially. I was like, yeah, I'll stay up super late to schedule in another call, or yeah, no, totally, I understand, no problem. I know, like, you know, you flaked on the last 2 calls and like I called you twice this time and you still had to cancel without saying a word to me. Like, not a problem. You know, I was just like, everything's okay. Everything's all right, because I didn't want to deal with it and I didn't want to make it worse. And then I started setting boundaries, and it's not mean at all. You know, you guys, am I mean to you guys? Never. Only out of love, and very rarely. And it's not exactly mean, but you know what I'm saying? So start feeling proud to set boundaries, but the art comes in understanding confrontation versus communication. So when you confront, you're operating from emotion. When you communicate, you're operating from what you need and want. You're operating from logic. You are requesting. Confrontation is your emotion coming out, and that's what's responding for you. And that is usually met with emotion from the person who's on the receiving end. And then the two of you are just reacting to each other, and nothing ends up sinking in, nothing gets solved. When you communicate things, there'll be lots of things in life that are not particularly enjoyable to talk about, but are necessary, like how you feel about something or what you need. If you communicate that, that's what puts you in the position to say, I'm not being mean, I'm not being disrespectful. If you're not respecting my boundaries or you're upset about my boundaries, that is your issue to deal with. So there's power in that communication. Being a yes man to everybody around, it just, everyone but you, everyone but your family, because you're worried about outside opinions and being the bad guy and all that does is stunt you and the people closest to you. Because how many times have we given of ourselves to someone else to not be the disappointment, and our family has actually felt the expense of that because they're the ones that didn't see us that night or get us when we're moody and exhausted. It's because we've been running ragged for other people, so we're good in their eyes all day. You know, they're the ones. So if you have a hard time picking you, pick them. You know, whether you have a child or whether you want to have a child one day, I always frame this out because I think of this often this is a lesson. If my child was in this lesson, what would I want to teach them? What example would I want to set for them? Would I want them to see their mother running around, running themselves into the ground, putting their health and happiness last just to please other people so they think I'm worthy? No, I would never want them to feel that way, because I want them to value themselves and learn how to communicate their boundaries efficiently so nobody can take advantage of them, but they're not closed off the rest of their life. So there's a lot of power in this that may scare you at first, or there might be some of you watching this like cannot relate, confrontational from the get-go, and that's cool too. But you want to rein that in, because there's power then in communicating versus confronting. And if you're at the point where you're like, I don't know how to communicate what I want and need from someone unless I get snippy, or unless I get to the point where I'm super pissed off, that can go in your manual. If you have, your manual where you're writing about you and you're writing all your little quirks and things, if you haven't, Cheyenne, you're not at day 3 yet. I think you'll see about the manual in day 3, but in the classroom. But, if you know this about yourself, have a game plan. Write out ways that you can stand up for yourself. Write out ways that you can set your boundaries that are respectful, or at least not really mean, or aggressive. And work on them, correct them as you go. It's okay. We're all works in progress, all of us at all times. Doesn't matter, even the best of the best. If they're not continuing to get better, they're going to become irrelevant one day, right? So all of us, no matter where you're at in life, are works in progress. Things like this, if you are not a person who sets boundaries up until this point, it does not mean you can't. It's just now you know something you need to learn and something you need to develop and get better at, because I'm telling you, it'll take years off your friggin' life if you don't let people walk all over you. If you are in a work situation with assertiveness, that's a big topic we talk about. Again, you can't very well tell your boss how it is, and be like, no, actually, I'm going to do it this way. But there are ways that if your boss is disrespectful to you, you can say to them, can you rephrase that again? And I swear to you, that little tip throws them off every time. Can you rephrase that? They're like, what do you mean? And you're like, can you just say that again for me? And then they'll say it nice and be like, okay, I understood you that time. And then I do that all the time with all kinds of people. And it surprisingly works. Or if somebody is piling work onto you and you can't take it, don't just keep saying yes, but you don't have to say, I'm so swamped, I can't do this, oh my God, this is too much, because that takes your power away. That makes it seem like you can't handle it, versus I am handling something else right now. That big difference between I can't handle anything else and I'm handling something else is huge. So you can simply say to someone in that situation, I can try and complete it by blank day or time, but I'm working on other things, so I'm not sure I'll get to it. Or you can say, okay, I'm working on X, Y, and Z. What would you, if this is your boss, what would you prefer I prioritize right now? It's setting a boundary without you saying no, is asking questions, because it's also putting out there that like you're working on something. It's not that I'm twiddling my thumbs just sitting here doing nothing, but it's also not like, can't you see I'm freaking busy? Because that wouldn't go over well. That would be confrontation, not communication. So tell me in the chat now. I will save this screen and post it in the comments when I put the recording up. But now tell me in the chat, when do you guys feel like you struggle setting boundaries? Or if you don't struggle setting boundaries, what are you feeling from this conversation that you would want turned into a more in-depth? Oh, hello. Say hi. We made a guest appearance, everyone. You are so cute. I can't take it. I swear he loves it. I'm always afraid to make it worse. Yeah. And also making it worse has a sense of an element of like, I can't handle it. Like if it's worse, I won't be able to handle it. And it's normal. I mean, I have anxiety, I have panic disorder, you know, like, so does that make it go away? That little feeling in your, no. But the more you push through it and see it's not the end of the world and that you get a lot more respect from people, it's almost like an innate reward system for speaking up. So it is hard at first. It's hard when it's your spouse. Girl, let me tell you, Nick has 60 first cousins on one side. So Tabby, your face, I'm dying. 60. Yeah, 60. So it's kids, offspring of his aunts and uncles. Yeah, it certainly is difficult when it's your spouse's whole family. But it's even harder when it's your own family. That's for damn sure. Absolutely. Nobody wants to cut out their family, you know, like, so if I know some people that it's been like their family are abusive and they do have to get some distance. I recommend therapy. I recommend getting as strong as possible, utilizing every resource and feeling confident in your decision, even if it hurts, to move on if it's better for your health. Because in the end, if your family isn't going to be looking out for your health, you have to. So again, I relate it back to kids. I want to be someone's mom one day. I got to protect me if that's the case. So saying yes to everyone gets exhausting. Absolutely. That's you giving and giving and giving to someone else and never feeling you have a right to want anything in return. That's super draining. You know, thankless work is really draining. I know my teachers watching this can feel me just from what I see from Nick. Okay, I feel that way at work. Work is super common. And if anybody ever talks down to you at work or talks to you like crap, you do not have to put your head down and bow and walk away. You can even, like, I've even asked people before, this has been more recently, so not an employer, but if I could go back, I would do this. I would say, you know, why are you mad at me? What, like, because that also catches people way off guard, because a lot of people like to have teeth. They like to bark. And then as soon as you are a human being and you show that like they're actually hurting you, if they have any conscience whatsoever, they'll be like, and then they're really scared to be jerks. So they soften up real quick. If you're just like, why are you angry with me? Like they don't know what to say. They expect you to just walk away with your tail between your legs and you don't. So, and then I like to throw them for a loop and be like, when they answer, be like, okay, not a problem. I'll make sure I do it differently. Because then they're also worried, like, oh my God, is she going to lose it? Like, why are you angry with me? And then they tell you something. They're probably thinking that it's going to like make you snap because, you know, you're a woman who's asking, why are you angry? First of all. But yeah. Struggle setting boundaries when it comes to putting myself first at any time. That is something huge to work on because, again, it's self-worth related. It's I have to because I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to let down. I don't want to, if I can hide that it'll hurt me later on and alone in my house, nobody will see me in pain or knocking out at 8 p.m. when my kid's like yanking on my arm trying to wake me up. You know, like nobody else is going to see that battle. They'll just see the girl that gets it done, the girl you can rely on, the one that's always the workaholic, that stays late, make sure everything's done well. That's where you're setting the bar. It's what's expected. So whenever, you know, that's hard to maintain if you set the bar at always giving and always saying yes. So setting boundaries, the quicker you can do that, you gain so much energy. I have FOMO. Yes, me too. I went through a long period of time where I distanced myself and quit talking and hanging out with people and lost a lot of friendships. So now I feel better. I also have anxiety and I want to do all of it and put myself last. And I want to do all of it and put myself last or Jared last. So if I got this right, it's more so like you cut people out to avoid the risk of putting yourselves last. Is that more so? Is that what you're getting at? Or if you want to type and just clarify that, because I like where you're going with that. I want to make sure I got it right though before I respond. I love that dog. Yeah. I think I can just hold him up on a Zoom for you, Rachel, and that could just be what our calls consist of and you'd be happy. I love him too. But also, I think knowing what your boundaries need to be is also part of it. Yeah. Sometimes I set boundaries, but I overestimate what I can do. Yeah, that's huge. That's a whole other thing because then it's a sense of pride. It's like, if I can push myself to do that, I'm gonna, because I can. If I don't, then I'm lazy. Or if I don't, then I'm disappointment. you know, ditch it. If you have to stretch, here's a good way to tell. If it's really a stretch, look at the situation and the person in which you're stretching for. If historically it has not been a reciprocal relationship, or let's say it's work, and historically it's just expected, not really redeemed as, not really like deemed as anything amazing, but kind of just like what you're known for, then that's a good time to set a boundary. Because if it's not absolutely necessary that you do that thing and push yourself that hard, it's okay not to. It's okay to not want to work constantly. I'm saying this like I need to tell myself this all the time. So, by the way, so I feel you. Okay. So, what else did I write over here? Guilt is a useless emotion. It serves us no purpose. It doesn't teach us anything.
Yes, girl.
Hey, girl, keep your thing muted for now. I have Q&A after. But guilt is an absolutely useless emotion. It just is. It's just there to make you feel bad, make you feel heavy, make you feel like you don't have a choice, you don't have a right, you don't know how to make the right decisions for yourself. You should not trust yourself. Guilt is such a toxic thing to have. Now, do I mean no remorse? No, because then you'd be a sociopath if you had no remorse. Like, so don't go that end, you know, but guilt itself, taking on the feelings because someone else is feeling a certain kind of way, is absolutely useless. It doesn't help you or them. It doesn't change the situation. It doesn't give you the energy you need to put yourself last and say yes to someone. It is just there to continue the torture after you've already felt like crap enough to say no. It's just keeping you in that place. That's all it's doing. It's the same thing to me as worry. Worry doesn't solve problems. Worry doesn't make you sharper, doesn't make you more capable, give you more energy. It just makes us feel like we're on top of things, but it's not. Guilt makes you feel like I'm a caring, soft, and loving individual who puts others first. And it does. However, it also makes you say yes to people that you really don't need to say yes to. And it just inflicts more pain on you in the long run. For what? Okay, I have a hard time setting boundaries because I don't want to miss out on any experiences. Okay, so I don't prioritize my own space. So even when I'm exhausted as shit, I'll say yes to what's being asked. It's not just fun stuff. I do it at work. I typically do everything that's asked of me. As for Jared, I put him last by not respecting his boundaries for his introvert ass ways. Well, it's good. You guys balance each other. But so the thing with that is it's hard because I've been there and I want to push myself and do all the things. I get a thrill from completing things or from pushing myself and then succeeding at it. Even if it's going to hurt me later, I'm like, yes, I did it. At least I did it, you know? And what I can say to that is it is self-worth. It's self-worth derived. As much as you're like, but I just don't want to miss out. No, it's you feeling hard. Like if you are afraid to miss out because you truly can push yourself and you want to go to a fun thing, I get that. But if you want to say yes just to get the rush of being the good girl, even though you're going to be suffering later, who is it benefiting at all? Is it really worth that feeling? Because you could have that feeling doing a lot of other things and accomplishing other things in your time, feeling good. And wouldn't that be even better? All right, so my husband is an extrovert from hell. He's hilarious, but he loves his alone time, and I don't always respect that either. Also, my husband's name is Jared also. So that's a hard one. I'm an extrovert, and I hate being alone. Hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it with a passion. So I have 2 dogs in this little house. So, but alone time for some people is like a recharging of the batteries. So when you feel like you don't respect that a lot, is it because you want more time with them or you want to make sure that you're on their mind? Where does it come from when you don't respect that, where you struggle to respect that? And I can help clarify on that. Let's see what else. And I want to go over gaslighting real quick as you guys are typing in there. I want to go over gaslighting because that is a huge thing. And bosses do it, family does it, partners do it. Most of all, it is a narcissistic thing to do. So, and again, I'm always looking out for my chronic illness, non-self-confidence having ladies, because we tend to historically be magnets for narcissists. So whether you are or you aren't, look out for gaslighting from anybody. And that is somebody who makes you feel absolutely insane or stupid for feeling how you feel about something, or for something they did. If you take offense to it or you set a boundary, they will try to make you feel like it's ridiculous that you're doing that, or that you're too sensitive, or you're too hard ass, or they spin it back on you to direct the attention on you so that you feel like you're making the wrong decision and setting that boundary. And if you can feel it, if you ever get this thought, wait, what? No. When you're talking because somebody just flipped the tables back at you, that is the perfect sign that someone's gaslighting you. If you're like, but what do you mean? No, that's not what happened. I didn't do that. I'm upset because if you feel like you got water on the motherboard and you're like, I don't know what's happening, like that's a good sign that someone's gaslighting you. It feels like they're just messing with your brain, and it's what they're trying to do, even if they don't intend to. So sometimes it comes across as guilt trips from family. So be careful. Sometimes it's innocent and sometimes it's not. I just want to share literally everything with him. I'm an introvert as well, so I definitely need my space to recharge. So I don't know why I do it to him, but I want to do all the things and have him with me. I with children all day long at school, so I don't get to talk to him or experience adult life. He also works typically 6 days a week, so I just miss him all the time. Okay, I relate because Nick comes home and he doesn't want to speak to anybody because he's dealt with kids. He's like the opposite. He's like, he wants to be around, but he's just like mental mush when he comes through the door. He's like, just please let me think, So, and I'm like, I miss you, like, I'm like, I've been home with the dogs all day and I'm on the phone or behind my computer. So I get it. I think the best thing for that is to have a ritual of some kind, or like a routine of some kind, where maybe you spend the first 5 minutes you're together just talking or cuddling or something. Like, it could be something stupid, whatever, but it's your thing to do as soon as you first see each other. Creating routines tends to give a lot of comfort. And then it could be like, okay, we have our separate time. I'll see you at dinner or something like that. It's good to discuss and set these boundaries so that you guys know where each other's at, but you also have time to look forward to when you know you're going to spend time together. Yeah, I've definitely been needy since Nick went back to school. I'm always for like the first month after summer. I'm like, I don't want to do it, but it's okay. All right. So I love talking about this. I know it's not about our typical stuff. It's not about our bodies. It's not about our stress or our health. But I feel like, what is the point in talking about all of the stress maintenance, stress management, if we don't tackle some of the bigger topics that seem to be stressing people out, from what I've heard from my calls throughout the week. So I hope that you guys found a benefit from this. I hope you learned something here. I hope I didn't just ramble on for a half hour, and that you enjoyed this and took something away from it. As usual, you know me, I'm needy. I love feedback. So if you could tell me, after we get out of here, text me, message the group, comment on the post when I put it up, the recording. But tell me what you thought about this, if anything really struck you, or if you're really pondering something from this, because sometimes the questions we ask after these discussions are the biggest growth moments. Okay, so tell me how you feel, and I will see you guys. I'll talk to you throughout the week, but I will see you guys again next Monday. All right. Good night, everybody. Bye.